everyone, myself Dr. Megha, Assistant Professor, School of Legal Studies, K.R. Mangalam University. Now in this session, we will be discussing about the concept of remoteness of damages. You must have heard about the word damage, and now we will be discussing about damages. So, we had already discussed in our previous sessions that there is a very slight difference between when we see the word damage and damages, we do not see any kind of difference, but there is a huge difference between the meaning of damage and damages. Damage is some wrong, some injury that is caused by a wrongful act, and damages are the compensation that is paid in lieu of that to compensate that person for that damage. So, this concept of remoteness of damages generally, how can we make a person liable? Only to the extent to which a defendant, to what extent that person can be made liable. So, concept it refers to the extent to which a defendant can be held liable for the consequences of their wrongful act or omission. Even if an act is deemed to be negligent or tortious, the defendant may not be held liable for all the consequences of their action. So, if I hit somebody and he got injured, then I can be made liable for the same. But what if other consequences comes in, he suffers some injury, his brother suffers some injury, his mother got nervous shock, whether I would be liable for all those consequences just for the reason that I hit that person? That is a concept of remoteness of damages. So, my act was negligent, that I hit somebody, that was tortious, but I cannot be made liable for all the consequences. I can be made liable for those consequences that are not too remote, that are not too far. In other words, the damage or loss that suffered must be a foreseeable consequence of the defendant action, which can be foreseen by a prudent man, by a layman, that yes, it can happen, it can be a result of this act. For example, a person was driving a car on the bridge negligently while taking on a call. Due to his negligence, an old man standing on the side of a road got injured. So, in this case, a person was driving a car on the bridge and negligently he was talking on the phone, and because of his negligence, he hit a old man who was on the side of the road, and that old man got injured. His family members ran to rescue him, who was also there on the roadside. They ran to rescue him, but unfortunately a truck was coming from the another side, and in order to save his family members, the truck driver steered left and hit the railing of the bridge and fell into it. The question was, is the car driver be made liable for all the consequences? Because it was his fault first. It was who started all these things. So, if he was not negligent, he was not on the call, then he will not hit that old man. If that old man was not hit, then his family member were not like in the running situation to save him. To save those family members, truck driver was not in a position to be in there in the out of the cliff. So, here the question was whether this car driver should be made liable for all those consequences, or for that consequences for that he hit that old man and that old man was injured because of that wrongful act. So, this whole incident was too remote to be anticipated by the defendant. He cannot anticipate all these consequences, that yes, that will happen in consequence of just of that reason that he was on that call. So, he acted negligently, so he would be liable for only those consequences which was not too remote, which was the direct consequence of his negligence. So, he cannot be made liable ad infinitum, that means for all those infinite consequences that happened because of his negligence. Now, what is proximate and remote damage? As we are talking about the concept of remoteness of damage, then there must be some kind of proximate damage too. So, if the damage that is caused by the act of the defendant is too remote to be anticipated, which cannot be foreseen by a prudent man, by a layman, then the defendant won't be held liable. This is called remote damage. On the other hand, if the act of the wrongdoer and the consequences are connected to each other and they are foreseeable by a prudent man, that can be foreseen, then they are considered as proximate damage and defendant will be liable for it. Very famous case related to it was of Scott versus Shepherd, that is also known as Squibb case. In this case, there was a person named as D who threw a lighted squib into a crowd. It fell on X, who threw it further to save himself obviously, that fell on Y, again who threw it away, that it fell on P, and then this squib exploded and blinded one eye of some person. In this case, now the question was whether D would be liable for the ultimate injury to P who got blinded by the explosion of that squib, although X and Y also had intervened, and because of that intervention that squib reaches to B. Still D's act was the causa causans, that means the proximate cause of that damage, and D was made liable for the same. So, you can see that it started with D, then in between X intervened, then Y intervened, and ultimately it fell on P, there it exploded and caused injury to P. And there was a direct consequence of the act of D, which was foreseeable, that if you are throwing something in the crowd, it is going to injure someone obviously, and that is the reason that it was held the proximate cause. The negligence, the tortious act of D was considered as the proximate cause of the damage of P. The next case is of Hans versus Harwood. In this case, the unattended horse van of D started running as some boys had thrown stones on the horse. The policeman who attempted to stop the horse, that policeman was injured. Again in this case, D was held liable. There is a concept of general defense that is considered as voluntary non-fit injuria. Voluntary non-fit injuria means where the person voluntarily suffers some injury because of his own consent. The other person cannot be made liable although that person was negligent. This case was considered as the exception to voluntary non-fit injuria. This is also called as rescue case. In this case, there was a horse van that belonged to some person D, and that van was left unattended. Some boys were playing over there and they threw some stone on the horse and that started running and caused, there was a huge danger of causing damage to some street children who were playing over there. Policeman who was standing over there, he saw that thing and he attempted to stop and ultimately he got injured. D took an excuse that it was a case of voluntary non-fit injuria and I cannot be made liable for the same. But in this case, the contention that the throwing of stones was an intervening cause and hence D was not liable was rejected by the court and D was made liable despite of this fact that he took the defense of voluntary non-fit injuria. There are two tests of remoteness, test of directness and test of reasonable foresight. To decide that how far, to what extent the liability of defendant can go, two tests were evolved. First one is considered as test of directness and second one is test of reasonable foresight. Let's discuss test of directness. It is also considered as a proximate test. A person is liable for all the direct consequences of his wrongful act whether he could foresee them or not. even if the person is not able to foresee all the consequences that this is going to happen or this is not going to happen, that doesn't matter. He will be liable for all the direct consequences of his wrongful act, because consequences which directly follow a wrongful act are not too remote. That condition is also there, that should not be too remote. It's foreseeable or not foreseeable, that doesn't matter, but it should not be too remote, and it should be the direct consequences of the wrongful act of defendant. The famous case where this test of directness was laid down was the case of Free Polymis and Furnace, Whitty and Corporation Limited. This was a case of around 1921. In this case, D chartered P's vessel to carry a cargo which included petrol. Some cases were leaking and there were vapors of petrol. D's servants, while shifting cargo, negligently knocked at a plank which fell rubbing the wood and got ignited. As there was a leakage of petrol, so it caught fire. As a result of this, the entire vessel caught fire and was destroyed. The court held D was liable. Now, what is the reason of the liability of D? As it was due to the negligence of D's servants that the fire had broken out, and hence D was liable for all the consequences. The negligence was just that they were negligent in carrying that cargo, there was some sort of leakage of petrol, but still all these things were the direct consequences of the negligence of the workers of D. Even though they could not reasonably have been anticipated that because of this negligence, because of that small leakage, there will be huge fire and the whole vessel will be destroyed. That cannot be anticipated, but it is the essential of test of directness that all the direct consequences will be covered by the damages and defendant will be liable for all those direct consequences. That should not be too remote, again that was not too remote, and foresee and foreseeability is not an essence. Even if it is not anticipated, even then the defendant shall be held liable as per the test of directness. Then again there was a case of Smith versus London and South Western Railway Corporation. In this case, the railway company appointed a person to trim hedges and grass growing at the side of railway line. But the company was negligent enough in allowing a person to collect all the leftover material near the railway line during the dry weather. That is, in a sense, if any hedges are being cut off, that should be removed from the railway line because there are some sparks from the railway tracks. So, same happened in this case, company appointed person to trim those edges and the grass that is growing at the side of the railway line, but they were negligent removing that hedges from the side of that railway line. Then due to a spark from the railway engine, it set fire on the material and the plaintiff's cottage that is nearby the railway line got burnt. The defendant were held liable because it could have been foreseen by the reasonable man that if there will be a spark in a dry weather, because hedges will dry and that will caught fire very easily by a spark only, and as there will be a windy situation, windy weather, then it may go to the nearby places also. That was something that could be foreseen and it was not too remote, and it was the direct consequence of the negligence of the company, and that is why the defendant were held liable by applying the test of directness. Now, the next test is of test of reasonable foresight. After 40 years, approximate 40 years, this test of directness was rejected and new theory that was also there previously also, but and again adopted by the courts, and according to this test, if the consequences of a wrongful act could be foreseen by a reasonable man, then they are not too remote. If on the other hand a reasonable man could not have foreseen the consequences, then they are too remote. So, as far as the test of directness is concerned, it said that all direct consequences will be covered by the defendant. He will be made liable for all the direct consequences, whether it could have been foreseen or not foreseen by the prudent man, but they should not be too remote. But this test of reasonable foresight made it clear that if the consequences are foreseeable, then they will not be considered as too remote, but if they cannot be foreseen by a reasonable man, then automatically they will be considered as too remote, and for that no liability shall arise. So, an individual shall be liable for the consequences which are not too remote, which could be foreseen. And this was adopted in the case of Overseas Tankship Limited versus Mock Docks and Engineering Corporate Limited. That case was in 1961, and this case is also famously known as Wagon Mounts case. So, that is why I said that approximate after 40 years, again this theory was adopted by the courts and test of directness was rejected by the courts, and to decide the damages, that how far, to what extent the defendant can be made liable, test of reasonable foresight shall be made applicable. In the case of Wagon Mounts case, what happened in this case, that again a company has hired a tank ship, there was a leakage, and the petrol spread over the ocean water, and nearby there was a wharf ship nearby the edges of the sea, and when the petrol was there on the sea and wharf work was going on, there was spark in that wharf, and that petrol on the water surface caught fire, and because of that fire whole the wharf got burned and they suffered a huge loss, and that was because of the negligence of the cargo ships. So, in this case, firstly, by applying the test of directness, defendant was made liable for every kind of loss that is suffered by the plaintiff. But ultimately, New South Wales court has rejected. That case went to the Privy Council. They also adopted the test of directness, and they said that defendant shall be made liable for all the direct consequences of the negligence, and it was also it was considered as the direct consequence of the negligence. But that case went to New South Wales court, and here that court has rejected the theory of directness, and they adopted the test of reasonable foresight, that not a reasonable man can foresee that this could happen, that water can spread, that the petrol can spread on the water surface, and there would be a spark in the wharf ship, and there will be that petrol caught fire and it will cause a huge damage that cannot be foreseen by a reasonable man. So, the court held that this damage was too remote and the defendant cannot be made liable for the same. Then in future, this test was adopted in the case of Hughes versus Lord Advocate. In this case, a manhole was left covered by the tent. Some construction work was going on and there was a manhole that was left covered by the tent. One evening, surrounded by the lamps but otherwise unguarded, the manhole was opened for the purpose of maintaining underground telephone equipment by the post office employee, and one evening it was left unattended and it was just surrounded by the lamps, and there was no guard over there, no warning was over there. 8-year-old child started playing with one of the lamp. The lamp and the boy fell into the manhole, which resulted in severe injuries to him. The House of Lords held that it could be foreseen that anyone may be burned by tampering with the lamp, and the explosion was an unforeseeable event. Hence, the defendant was proved guilty. So, what happened in this case? Again, the court applied the test of reasonable foresight, that you are making a manhole, you are leaving it unguarded, you are not putting any warning sign over there, you are just guarding it, you are just surrounding it with the lamps that nobody will come nearby that manhole. that is insufficient thing to provide a safeguard against any kind of damage. That can be foreseen that if some child is coming, some animal is coming, that they may fall that lamp into that main hole, they may fall along with that lamp in the main hole, and that cause damage. And that happened in this case. The lamp and the boy fell into the main hole, and there was a severe injuries to the boy. Defendant took the defense, they have taken the sufficient safeguards, they have took due precautions, due care, but court held that it was insufficient. It was not sufficient to safeguard any person against those damages. And by applying the reasonable foresight rule, that it is easily foreseeable by a reasonable man that this could happen. This was not too remote thing that could be avoided. So, by applying this test, the defendant was proven guilty. Now, if we compare these two tests, the test of directness and test of reasonable foresight. Test of directness focuses on the immediate causal link between the defendant act and the harm suffered by the claimant. So, defendant would be liable for all the direct consequences of the act. Either it's too remote, but it should be the direct consequence of the defendant act. But it is more concerned with whether the injury directly follow from the defendant action without considering the forcibility of the damage. So, if the defendant is not in a position to foresee that this could also happen, that doesn't matter. He will be liable if injury directly follows from the defendant action, and this is the concept of directness that was established in the case of Re-Polmis. But on the other hand, test of reasonable foresight, it focuses on the forcibility, whether this harm is reasonably foreseeable in the ordinary course of events. This is generally considered more flexible and better suited to handle cases of complex causation and indirect harm. So, tort is not as simple as that. There are injuries which are very much direct and a person can be made liable. A hit B and B got injured, A will be liable. But what if because of the injury that is caused B, there are certain injury that is caused to C, then there will be involvement of D, then there will be involvement of E, because of the nervous shock he is also injured, then this chain is going on. So, now the question is whether A would be made liable for all those consequences, whether A will be liable for B, C, D, E, although he has caused injury only to B. So, if we apply test of directness, A will be liable for all those consequences. He will be liable for B, he will be liable for C, then D, then E, and so on. He will be liable for all the direct consequences, either it's too remote. But if we apply test of reasonable foresight, the A will be liable only for those consequences which are foreseeable. So, if a reasonable man can foresee injury to B and C, then A will be liable only for B and C. He cannot be made liable for D and E, because that doesn't fall within the category of forcibility. So, this is the comparison between these two tests, and that is why this test of reasonable foresight is considered as more flexible and better suited to handle cases of complex causation. So, to conclude this session, we have discussed about the remoteness of damages, that we are saying that tort is there, tort is a wrongful act for which liquidated damages are to be given. But the question is to what extent a defendant is made liable. I am again and again saying that A has caused injury to B. That is very much easy, that is very much sensible that we are going to made liable A for the damages that is caused to B. But what if because of the negligent act of A, there are certain other people who suffered injury for which A was not intended for. A has never intended that he is going to cause damage to some C or D or E or F. that they people will also be injured, the people will also be suffered. So now here we have to decide that to what extent that person will be made liable. To make it simplify, the courts had evolved with the concept of proximate and remote damage, that for any proximate cause the damages will be given, that will be considered as proximate damage, and remote damage that is not foreseeable. So for that also damages shall be given. So how we are going to decide that this is a proximate damage or remote damage? Two tests are there, test of directness and test of forcibility. Test of directness, that says that the person shall be liable for all the direct consequences of the act. The person can be made liable for all the consequences that ensues his act, whether they are too remote or not, whether they are foreseeable or not. But on the contrary, after this test of directness, this theory was rejected by the courts and test of reasonable foresight was adopted in the very famous Wagon-Mounts case, and it stated that a person can be made liable for only those acts which are foreseeable in the nature, which can be foreseen by a reasonable man. So, a person cannot be made liable for all the consequences of his acts. He can be made liable only for those consequences which are foreseeable in nature. So, this is how a person's liability can be ascertained. A person can be made liable. So, this is all for this session. In next sessions, we will be discussing about the concept of strict and absolute liability. Just to give an overview that this is the very famous things to decide a liability in the tort cases. There was a very famous case that has happened recently, Vizag gas leak case, where the court were criticized for applying the concept of strict liability rather than the absolute liability. We will discuss these things in next sessions. Thank you.